So the new contract is basically close to 100 million.
What's the percentage that ATI will retain from that 100 million?
65 for us being the prime, and then 35.
So 65 million.
Yeah,
yes.
That's a good deal right there.
We posed as headhunters looking to hire someone who could get us government money contracts with the IRS.
And you pay these like Accentures to do the job. And so it's really minimal work.
Yeah.
Yes.
And honestly, that's really, in reality, that's what's happening. I'm not talking about my firm, but yeah.
It appears as though these companies are just shell companies, just pass-throughs.
It sounds like you're a pass-through.
Yeah.
Pass-through. Pass-through. Unless Elon comes in and changes the law. So you take out the pass-through, so to speak.
I don't think they'll dare to touch the native, Americans or native Indians.
They're not going to touch the Native Americans. It's a layer of protection. Man, most people don't even know your ATI name.
But they make good money though.
They make great money. I mean, you fly under the radar and you take 65%, and nobody even knows your name. Nice work. Hey, God bless America. And here's the flying under the radar, right?
My name is James O'Keefe.
Turn that off.
God bless
Cheers!
America, man.
God bless America! Yeah, baby!
In our previous expose on ATI Government Solutions, a technology contractor, we uncovered them claiming 8A, Native American-owned small business status, while being entirely operated by Caucasian DC executives with Firmadge Crutchfield as the CEO, and his wife, Olympic swimmer Marina Mulyayeva as CFO, his business partner Scott Deuschman as CDO, and the Susanville Indian Rancheria seemingly playing no role at all, other than to appear as 51% owners, but only on paper. They're raking in hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars in federal contracts, outsourcing 80% of the labor to subcontractors, well above the legal limit of 50%, essentially serving as a pass-through company. We actually hear the words pass-through in these undercover recordings stated by multiple employees.
And I tell you, pass-throughs are a great thing as well.
Yeah, pass-through.
And according to Cassis versus United States, well, they may be committing wire fraud, conspiracy for fraudulent inducement. And within a couple hours of releasing that video on Monday, the administrator of the Small Business Administration, Kelly Loeffler, announced that the SBA will officially be conducting an investigation into ATI Government Solutions and the Susanville Indian Rancheria, and that there is a full review underway for the entire 8A program, acknowledging billions of dollars in federal contracts have been run through shell companies, pass-throughs, and other illegal schemes. Maybe we'll finally see some of that accountability that you've all been hoping for. As we released the piece, I noticed hundreds of comments from people that have had their own personal experience with these schemes. Kelly Loeffler encourages whistleblowers to reach out and report such schemes to the SBA Complaints and Submission Form at sbax.sba.gov/OIGCSS. Now we introduce you to the next individual at ATI we caught on tape, introducing Senior Director Anish Abraham.
So the company that I work for is ATI Government Solutions, and the title is Senior Director, and I do the program and portfolio management of that.
Anish thinks he's at a job interview right now for the position of Technical Director of Procurement at a salary of $400,000 a year with our fictitious company, CDO Solutions. We created a website for the fake company and reached out to employees of ATI with a very lucrative job offer. We're here in Jupiter, Florida, outside the 1000 North restaurant owned by Michael Jordan. Now is inside this restaurant in the bar area that Anish Abraham met with me and my undercover reporter. We posed as headhunters looking to hire someone who could get us government money contracts with the IRS. Anish Abraham has told us he's worked for ATI for over 2 years, procuring a $100 million contract with the IRS.
So the new contract that we signed up for, or we given the proposal for, is basically close to 100 million.
That one contract with the IRS is 100 million?
Yeah, that one is basically, we have the prime on that, but Accenture will be the sub.
The sub. Okay. In a case like that, what's the percentage that ATI will retain from that 100 million?
65, approximately 65, 35. That's a
So like
record.
35% for you?
No, 65 for us being the prime,
Got it.
and then 35.
65% revenue and a $100 million contract.
Then you just manage these Accenture people. You really sit back and you don't do the job,
Yeah.
65% of the money.
right? They're doing They're doing the
65% of the money.
Yes.
For the total contract value.
That's
Yeah.
a $65 million.
Yeah.
Yes.
Value there.
That's a good deal right there. Now, the SBA regulations require that the prime contractor ATI perform the, quote, primary and vital contract requirements, and that the prime contractor not be, quote, unusually reliant on the subcontractors for their expertise. Anish explained that for the $100 million IRS contract, Accenture, a large consulting firm with headquarters in Ireland, will handle the lion's share of the labor while only receiving 35% of the contract sum. Now, Accenture is not an 8A, minority-owned, eligible company, meaning that outsourcing more than 50% of the contract to them is against the law and potentially wire fraud. And while Accenture is, quote, doing the work, ATI is retaining 65% of the $100 million for themselves. It appears as though these companies are just shell companies, just pass-throughs. But don't take my word for it. Anish Abraham confirms that these schemes are just pass-throughs.
You pay these like Accentures to do the job, and so it's really minimal work.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
It's almost like, it's almost like you're a pass-through. Almost, right?
Yeah.
Pass-through. Pass-through.
I'm a minority and I'm a woman, so that's also
That's okay.
that's a plus. I can be just a pass-through company like ATI.
That's one. Yeah.
Yes,
Honestly, that's really in reality that's what's happening.
that's what's happening in reality. Okay.
I'm not talking bad about my firm, but yeah.
As we explained previously, a pass-through scheme involves a contracting company, in this case ATI, obtaining government contracts that are intended to go to disadvantaged or minority-owned small businesses, also known as 8A. In reality, they outsource the work and a small portion of the compensation to subcontractors that would otherwise be ineligible. Anish goes on to claim ATI doesn't do much business at all out of their office space, and that ATI merely rents office space when they need to impress a client with a meeting.
Do you have really an office? Do you?
So you don't have to do office business, don't spend the rent or that. So all those operational costs are basically trimmed out. Renting a space for a short duration, that's what we do. And then, suppose they want a client meeting or something.
Oh yeah.
Now you have the cost when you travel in and out.
Yeah, but you're just traveling to go and appease the client,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You're just like,
It's almost like a shell company.
I don't want to shell company though, but yeah, basically a company that is what this, they have the minority status, so the government has this thing to give it to them, and now they will have to run it, make sure that the work gets done.
Anish even acknowledges that the native-owned status is like a layer of protection against Doge cuts, that's Department of Government Efficiency. Anish claims, quote, I don't think they, Doge, will dare to touch the Native Americans, unquote.
they don't have to have an overhead in office. Everybody's remote, and you pay these like Accentures to do the job, and so it's really minimal work.
Exactly. Yeah.
Unless Elon comes in and changes the law,
I don't think that's going to happen.
to take out the middleman, to take out the pass-through, so to speak.
I don't think they will dare to touch the native, Americans, the native Indians. I don't think that.
They're not going to touch the Native Americans.
No.
It's a layer of protection. We secured a second meeting with Melaine Cromwell, and Cromwell informed us that she had recently been let go from ATI and has been focusing on her catering business, Ragin' Cajun, full-time, which we wish her the best of luck with. In her time away from ATI, Cromwell developed some new perspectives on ATI's alleged pass-through operations, which she shared with me.
You can't be just a pass-through account company, right? Even though,
You can't.
Although there's some that do it. You don't do it on a large scale, right? I mean, I forget the government clause, but it says you can't just be a pass-through. When I was a contract supervisor for Johns Hopkins in Laurel, Maryland, there were awards we would win where I would realize some were just a pass-through and we'd have to turn them down. Yeah, because we can get in major trouble for that. You know, we put the bid in as if we're going to be doing all of this, and it's mostly the sub who has the experience, and you can't do that. When you're small and you're doing that, and you know you're not, that's going to come back at you in a bad way.
Mulyayeva also revealed that ATI will sometimes have their subcontractors start working on a contract before the official start date commences. That was approved by the government when the contract was awarded. And when they ran into issues with trying to, quote, backdate the money, unquote, if Mulyayeva raised concerns or refused to comply, well, Chief Financial Officer Marina Mulyayeva, Crutchfield's wife, would send a stop work order on Mulayeva's behalf, potentially incriminating her if ATI were to be audited.
Once you know you're going to win something, you just start working. And let's say the government doesn't start the awards not until tomorrow, but because you want to get a head start, you got your subs already starting stuff.
Got it.
When the government cuts you a check to pay your subs, you can't backdate the money, because I know when the government comes to audit, and they say they awarded it on June 17th, and your sub started back on June 2nd. They don't pay you from June 2nd to the 17th. If you call me and say, hey, Mulyayeva, send a stop work order to such and such company because we can't have them working anymore, I'm going to say, okay, but first I'm going to go look at the contract. And if I have a contract in my file that's not signed, why are they working? Who told them to even start? Right? So those are the questions I'm asking. I'm like, Marina, okay, I don't mind sending a stop work, Marina, but where is our executed agreement with this company that authorized them to start work in the first place? That's the question I'm asking. There was an occasion during the stop work time where Marina would send the letter on my behalf. On my behalf. So whose name's at the bottom? Your name. Yep.
We also secured a third meeting with Mulyayeva, where we removed the wigs and revealed to her that we were undercover journalists investigating ATI. Now, Mulyayeva Cromwell didn't run away or attack me personally or call the police, as usually individuals do when we catch them on video. Cromwell did, however, claim that everything she said to our hidden cameras was merely her opinion, and that it shouldn't be taken as factually accurate about ATI. We challenged her on this, considering all the statements she gave us contained hard percentages, specific mathematical figures. You be the judge for yourself when you watch her and listen to her as Director of Contracts. The full meeting with Mulyayeva Cromwell goes live tomorrow, once again on our show, My Price is My Life. So we have some news for you here, okay? We're actually investigative reporters. My name is James O'Keefe. I'm an investigative reporter, and you're on about. Okay, we can, but just asking. Continuing our interaction with Anish. Anish reveals that he draws an ample salary for his work, which he acknowledges is basically overseeing and managing the labor that is done by subcontractors like Accenture, and that his supervisors earn more than top neurosurgeons. This is your taxpayer dollars they're talking about here.
What are you currently earning?
If you look at everything, I would be making up to 350.
Okay.
Right.
Who's your direct supervisor?
So my direct supervisor is Warren Dogra. He should be making a little, maybe a little over, not much though.
So we've gotten, 7 figures, from our companies.
From those companies?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, and then our other construction companies, and so we get okay returns, I guess.
That's pretty good. 7 figures is good.
Yeah.
It's a good return for not doing anything. Just letting your name.
Well, yes.
All that money flows from multiple government agencies and departments to the alleged Crutchfield corporate facade, Companies that claim to be Native American owned outsource most of their work, offer extremely generous compensation to their executives to the tune of $350,000 a year, and have barely any physical footprint. I would guess that 99.9% of you, the audience, have never heard of any of this, have never seen any of this.
Man, most people don't even know your ATI name.
But they make good money though.
They make great money. I mean, you fly under the radar and you take 65%, and nobody even knows your name. Nice work.
Cheers.
Hey, God bless America. And here's the flying under the radar, right?
Taking the money in, subcontracting much of the work out. These government contractors like ATI taking advantage of their special minority-owned status to get the contracts, get the money, act as a pass-through, and it's the taxpayer who gets screwed over.
You don't want to be on the front page of the New York Times. So I mean, we don't want that. Did you ever deal with the media? We don't want that, right?
Crazy people like the right-wing James O'Keefe dude, you know? No, we don't want that.
Trying to find out how much money you're getting. We don't want to deal with that.
Now stay tuned again for tomorrow when we break the interaction that I had with Mulayeva when I take off my wig and reveal who we are and what we're about. One of the most extraordinary things I've ever seen in my career, and that's saying something. You won't want to miss this tomorrow, live on My Price is My Life. And if you're on the inside of these institutions or any institution, hopefully this reporting will encourage other people on the inside to be brave and tell the truth, not just into a hidden camera at a restaurant to a stranger, but to the American people, because we need people to be brave and do something and step forward. If you notice that corruption in the federal government, please reach out to us at tips@o'keefemediagroup.com or text us or signal us at 914-491-9395. That's 914-491-9395, and one of my journalists will get back right to you. This is a developing story. Hopefully people will be arrested, and this is the accountability that you all seek. Stay tuned.